banks of the Colorado River in Lake Mead to the homes and businesses in Southern Nevada, welcome to Water Smarts, the podcast pumping from the heart of Las Vegas, where we engage with the experts who keep the water flowing throughout Southern Nevada. I'm Bronson Mack.
And I'm Zuelke. From how we treat it, deliver it, use it, protect it, and conserve it, the Water Smarts podcast is all about water in Southern Nevada. We hope to make you a little smarter about the one thing that keeps us all connected: water.
Hey, Crystal, how are you today?
I'm good. We just had a big thunderstorm up by my house. Yeah.
Is that the best or what?
Yeah, because, here in Las Vegas, we don't get it. We just don't get it enough. So it's like when it happens, it's like it's an event, We open up the windows, we go check outside, and it was a pretty good one. There was thunder, a pretty heavy rainfall. And so, and I was thinking when it rains, we love to tell people here in Southern Nevada that you should turn off your irrigation clocks, let Mother Nature water your landscapes because it's so precious here, our water. And if you aren't home, the best thing you can do is get a smart irrigation controller, which automatically turns your water off for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You get that alert that it's been put on a rain delay. And while I was playing dumb there going, wow, you got rain, I actually knew we got rain because I got hit with the rain delay notice on my smartphone saying that my Beehive smart irrigation clock was going to go into a 24-hour delay, which is wonderful. You can always change that and make it a little bit longer if you need to. But that technology that you're talking about, right? Improving efficiency for us as homeowners, us as residents to change our sprinkler clocks with that smart irrigation clock from our smartphone. That kind of technology, we've all adapted to that. We're all used to it. And the water industry is also adapting. The industry as a whole really working to incorporate new technologies into their operations. And today, to talk to us a little bit about how our local water agencies and technology are working together to help solve some of our water challenges, we have David Lynch, the Chief Executive Officer for Clear, a company that is helping water agencies like the Southern Nevada Water Authority leverage that technology, improve efficiencies, and improve operations. Dave, welcome to the Water Smarts podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're okay, Dave, as opposed to David. Do you have a preference there?
Do you know, I've been called so many worse things that Dave or David are both acceptable to me.
Love it. We love it when our guests just roll with the punches here at the Water Smarts podcast, and we are so happy to have you. Hey, before we dive into this topic, can you tell our listeners a little bit about Clear and how your company works with the water industry?
Yeah, really excited to. So basically what we do at Clear is to help water authorities manage their responsibilities of safe and secure water. When I think of a water utility's job, that's their number one thing. Yes, pipes go in the ground, water comes out of faucet, but the number one job is the safe and secure delivery of water. And when you think about that job, it is an incredibly complex thing. It's like being a doctor, an economic developer, your community steward all in one. And it requires a lot of jobs, a lot of memory. And basically what we do at Clear is to try and lift that administrative burden from our users so you can focus on the challenges that you face every day, such as emerging contaminants, drought, pollution events, and those type of things.
I like that you mentioned how complex it is and that people don't realize it because we often talk about how much of our infrastructure, for example, is underground. So people don't get to see a lot of the complexity that goes into getting water to their taps. So I'm glad you brought up that point. Dave, the Water Authority and the Las Vegas Valley Water District use Clear to manage their environmental compliance and other permitting processes. And for those of our listeners who may not know this, water agencies have hundreds of permits that they have to track. For example, we track environmental permits for air quality and water discharge. And each permit has its own renewal date, deadline, reporting requirement, and other tasks that are associated with it. We're talking hundreds of permits and deadlines. So it can be a lot of work just to manage the reporting process. How has Clear helped the Water Authority and Water District manage those processes?
I think what's worthwhile to think about when thinking about all the work that needs to be done is that there are thousands and thousands of jobs that need to be done every single day and every single week and every single month in a water authority. Even if there's, let's say, 1,000 tasks to be done, if you do 999 of them perfect and to the letter, it's only the one that you forget to do. That's when a lot of challenges and a lot of time gets wasted. So what this means in a regulatory context is there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot more coming. Candidly, the water industry didn't create a lot of the messes that have to be cleaned up. So when we talk about emerging contaminants, when we talk about lead in our water, when we talk about any of these challenges, this is a public service that many water authorities are doing. They are tidying up the messes of what's happened before. Ultimately, when something goes wrong, when one report isn't filed or one sample isn't collected because someone was sick or on vacation, all hell breaks loose. There's problems, you've got the regulators in, even though that there mightn't be challenges there. So ultimately what Clear does is gives that peace of mind, knowing that all the jobs, all the tasks, everything that needs to be done to make sure that you stay in regulatory compliance, that you remember to do all those things. And we look forward in the water industry, there is an aging workforce, depending on where you look across the States and across Europe and across the world. In some instances, up to 80% of the workforce is retiring. Ultimately, this entire industry, and I think it's important for our listeners and everyone who consumes water to know that this has been held together by an incredibly dedicated workforce that work relentlessly with technology that has been candidly substandard for a very long time. And what we're trying to do at Clear is just modernize it, bring the software and the tools that water professionals use every day into the 21st century and beyond.
Wow, Dave, I'm really glad you brought that up. I mean, you're really honing in on the fact that water agencies throughout the nation have to work within a regulatory framework. Almost everything that they do is in some way tied to some kind of regulation, some kind of permitting, something happening or requirement within the environmental compliance sort of arena. Really Clear helps to keep those agencies on track so that those balls don't get dropped, right? I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell, right?
Absolutely. And that's ultimately it. And I think, what's really important to know is that we're talking about, in many instances, regulation that's been around a long time. So Safe Drinking Water Act, it's been around a while. We know what the type of contaminants, we know what types we have to monitor for. But the reality is we're facing into a changing world. There's a lot more regulation. As we look into the future, it's not just the current regulations, it's forward-looking regulations, guidance, issuances, and different permits that are coming out. So yes, we have the Safe Drinking Water Act, but we also have emerging contaminants. And they are going to be challenging areas as we also face a more drought-stricken environment where conservation is going to be key.
Yeah, and as water agencies work to streamline processes, improve operations, Clear provides an excellent tool to help do that. But with that, obviously, Clear is a fairly new technology, and that creates a lot of opportunity, obviously, within the water industry for Clear to provide solutions to their clients. But, it can be difficult being a newer technology. Maybe one that hasn't been widely adopted might be seen as unproven or untested. And so it can be tough to break into the industry. So can you just talk a little bit about how the Water Authority and Clear were able to meet up and join forces? Where did this relationship begin?
Even to go back a few steps, I think one of the important things we think about innovation in the water industry is about the experience in the water sector. A lot of instances before, technology that's applied into water is just taken from other industries. So we think, natural gas, that's sort of the same as water, or pharmaceuticals, it's the same as water. And a lot of risk comes in that generalization of this all looks sort of the same. So when you're trying to apply technological solutions to this, there's a lot of risk in it. So from Clear's perspective, before we founded the company, my co-founder and I, we've been working in the industry for 10 years. Clear only works with water utilities because they are very nuanced. It's this delivery of this water service every day, but it's also you're a health agency in some respects. You're making sure people stay healthy and well. You're also an economic development authority. This is how we attract jobs. 2 out of 3 jobs in America are contingent on safe and secure water. And there's many other jobs. You're a trusted advisor when it comes to conserving water. The jobs are in some respects endless, and there's a nuance that you need to really understand the water industry. So coming from that background, having worked in water authorities all around the world, we recognize that a lot of the challenges in water are nuanced and require their own solution. So we were able to build some of these in Europe and test them there. When it came to looking to North America, we had to prove that our technology extended. The same problems exist, but we had to really earn our stripes. And what was really good and really effective way of doing this was working with a not-for-profit called WaterStart, which I know the Southern Nevada Water Authority done a number of pilots with. But it was fantastic because the problem was stated, hey, we are inundated with tons of work. We cannot keep up with the amount of work we need to do. We are a best-in-class utility, and this is the Southern Nevada Water Authority. But we want to make sure we maintain that best-in-class as these new regulations come. So when that problem statement was put out, they said, is there a way that we can take all of this knowledge, all of these processes, all of these jobs we have to do into one system? And ultimately, nothing existed on the market at the time except Clear. So we had this opportunity to run a pilot with Southern Nevada Water Authority and prove that not just the technology worked, but that the company worked candidly. Did we have the customer success? Did we have the customer service? And we were afforded that opportunity, and we were fortunate enough to get through that and be able to use that as a launch pad into the North American market, where we currently serve about 80 million Americans rely on water authorities that use Clear to keep their water safe and secure.
Dave brought up Water Start. And so I just wanted to dive into that a little bit more. For those who may not know, we did a podcast on Water Start, and it was called Finding Innovative Solutions to Water Industry Challenges. And a little more background for our listeners, Water Start is a nonprofit organization that connects innovative technology companies like Clear with water agencies around the world. So the Water Authority strives to be and is one of the most efficient water agencies in the world, or best in class, as Dave described it. We want to operate as efficiently as possible and treat and deliver the highest quality of water in the world. So as an organization, we're always looking for innovative technologies to help us reach those goals. The Water Authority and Water District are very involved with Water Start and help test the next technologies that are coming out. So we participate in Water Start pilot programs. We then provide feedback to the technology companies and also share the results with other water utilities that could benefit from those technologies. Sometimes the technology still needs a lot of work, and our staff provides valuable input to the company so they can further develop its product. Other times, the technology works really well, and then we can incorporate the system into our regular operations. So that's what we did with Clear after the pilot program. And so, Dave, before we let you go, can you tell us what's next for you and Clear, and how do you see companies like yours and water agencies like ours use technology to solve major water issues?
I think it's really important, from an outsider's perspective. I'm an Irish guy, and I've worked in Europe, I've worked in Asia, I've worked across America and Canada. And I think one really important point is that for your listeners and for Southern Nevada residents, they should be really proud of their water authority. I get afforded the opportunity to work in big cities all around the world. And what I've noticed is that Southern Nevada is like the bellwether. What's happening in the next 5, 10, 15 years in California and in Australia, how the Southern Nevada Water Authority have addressed these challenges is how the rest of the world are going to solve these problems. So Water Start is sort of like this university for how the rest of the world is going to adapt to a changing climate. But it's not a university where we sit around and talk about philosophy. This is the Water Start model says, hey, this is practical innovation. This is innovation where we don't just do pilots for pilot's sake or have a pilot purgatory. We actually try things out and we evaluate them, but we have a high success ratio because we start with the problem at the offset. I love being able to reference and to build kudos for the work that the authority does. And I always say, not just for the authority, but around any customer I go to, we are so familiar with these posters in our local community where we have the firefighter and the police officer and the paramedic, saying, here, I'm here to protect your community. And I always think that there should be a fourth space there for our water professionals, because we only recognize this blanket of safety that we're afforded with safe and secure water reliably delivered to our house 24/7. We only notice it when it's not there and when it's gone. And at Clear, when we set up, we had this idea that this changing climate is going to affect us all. There are a group of professionals that are incredibly dedicated that can solve this crisis. But if they spend 2 days of their week doing administration on regulation and compliance and filling out a form and just addressing these type of administrative questions, they can't solve these challenges that we're going to face into as we approach 2050. So that's the entire premise of Clear. And that's what we've been able to work initially with the authority. So when we look forward, the Clear platform is unique because it brings everyone together. It brings everyone together around one common goal of safe and secure water. Right now, that conversation happens in the compliance space. Everyone gets around the virtual water cooler because we are there and we have to do things for compliance. As we look forward, we have to become a sustainable utility of the future. That is what 2050 looks like. Ultimately, this is about people working together. And that's what Clear does. So when you enter a task into Clear, or you look up a sample from the lab, or you issue a notice to a customer, that is all in one system that has one record. So I like to put this akin to when you go to your doctor's office. We've moved to this world of a multidisciplinary approach to medicine. So we've all been there where you go into your doctor and he says, okay, you've got a sore ankle, let's go to a physio, but the physio has none of your records. And then the doctor's retired and then you don't know who did what. And you're saying, I have this symptom, but I just want to ultimately get better. Clear is this platform which allows all different disciplines, all different knowledge to be shared with one common objective, which is to make water safe and secure. So we start with compliance. We make sure that we're compliant to the Safe Drinking Water Act, and we do the same for wastewater utilities. But we also look forward to how we actually work to be preventative compliance. How do we know that we can deploy our limited resources in the best possible way so that we're protecting our ratepayers, so that they know that we are focused on spending their money responsibly? And that's what we are doing at Clear, and what we've been afforded the opportunity with many of our utilities to do that.
Well, just an outstanding overview there, Dave. I really think that our listeners can appreciate, even though they may not have known before, the commitment that our local water agencies here, the Southern Nevada Water Authority and all of our partners, have to streamlining processes, ensuring efficiency, making sure that we're investing ratepayer dollars in the most efficient and most productive ways possible. And all of that allows us to maintain a healthy, safe, and reliable water system. And every time you turn on the tap, we meet the demand, and we are doing that with the assistance of technology like Clear. Dave Lynch, thank you so much for joining us here on the Water Smarts podcast and sharing a little bit about what your company is doing to help take the worry out of water for water utilities.
Thanks so much for having me.
So Dave Lynch had some great points about Southern Nevada being a bellwether for addressing water challenges that other water agencies face as well. And it's nice to know that the Southern Nevada Water Authority is addressing those challenges in a way that will help other water agencies solve the same types of challenges.
Yeah, Crystal, I like that he said technology will play a role in solving the challenges of new regulation and climate change. I think our organization really agrees with technology's role there. I mean, we've already seen some benefits from that. And I like how Mr. Lynch described WaterStart as kind of a university that is helping the Southern Nevada Water Authority, other water utilities, and other members of WaterStart to implement some of these practical solutions to their challenges. You know, Crystal, you mentioned the podcast about WaterStart that we had previously recorded. It's been more than 2 years since we published that podcast. So we've invited back Dave Johnson, Deputy General Manager of Operations for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. Dave is also the chairman of the WaterStart Board of Directors, and he's involved in helping technology innovators test and implement their products so that other water utilities around the world might be able to implement them as well. Dave, welcome back to the Water Smarts podcast.
Hey, thank you, Bronson and Crystal. Really appreciate being able to be back.
So we just talked to Dave Lynch, the CEO of Clear, about how his company is helping the Southern Nevada Water Authority to track its regulatory permits and its environmental processes in really a more efficient manner. And Dave had mentioned that the water industry is facing a potential brain drain as a good portion of its workforce begins to retire over the next 5 to 10 years. I know we talk about this at the Southern Nevada Water Authority, too, when we've been working to recruit a new generation of water professionals. But Dave, can you just talk a little bit about how new technology like Clear can help the Water Authority to avoid the negative impacts of that brain drain as many of those in the workforce begin to retire or move up in the ranks in an organization?
Absolutely. This is a conversation that we've been having both at SNWA and as water utilities in general for quite some time. And let me give you a little background about Clear and about how we've implemented them here in the organization. In the past, we had our permitting functions, and that could be regulatory permits from water quality, could be from air permits, could be all different types of permits were handled in the organization by different functions. And those functions had their own independent tracking mechanisms. So the administrative functions and the ability to be able to comply with those functions were all in various parts of the organization. So we were effective in complying with our permits, but not necessarily the most efficient. And so what Clear does, it provides us basically a warehouse where we can put all of that information, regardless of the type of permit or a compliance requirement, into that warehouse. And then all of our people have the ability to see all of that information. And it basically acts as a timeless repository for all of those functions. So regardless of whether you have people that are early in their career or people that are close to retirement, all of the information is in one place. You even have the ability to set up functions where you can ask other people and tag other people to perform functions that are meeting the regulatory requirements. And so really what it's done for us is it's enabled us to have a timeless way of being able to ensure regulatory compliance. And as Dave mentioned in his discussion, the regulatory environment is only getting more and more restrictive, and new requirements are being placed on water utilities each and every day. So this really is a fantastic platform for us, and has really brought an efficiency, really shored us up against this brain drain situation as it relates to how we comply with permits.
So Dave, the other Dave mentioned that Clear only works in the water industry because it's such a specialized field. And we found the company through WaterStart, which is a nonprofit organization that helps the water industry find, test, and implement new technologies. The Water Authority published a request for proposal, a challenge statement that we needed a solution, and Clear stepped up to the plate. Can you explain how that process works with WaterStart, and how do water agencies like ours get connected with technology solution companies like Clear?
Yeah, absolutely. So we at the Water Authority are working towards being the most water efficient utility in the world. And so it's just a natural progression for us to partner with WaterStart, who has members literally throughout the world that are trying to solve really challenging water problems. And so WaterStart will come alongside these utilities, in our case, SNWA, and we'll put together a challenge statement, really defining what is the problem? What are we trying to solve here? Because we're not doing innovation for the purposes of innovation. We're doing innovation for the purposes of solving real challenges. And in the case of Clear, we put together a problem statement that basically specified the issue where we were having challenges being efficient in managing our permitting process. So that proposal or that challenge statement was put out in the form of an RFI. And an RFI is a request for information so that that could be seen by any innovator that's out there in the innovation space. And they could look and see, do I have a solution that would meet the needs of this particular challenge? And in this case, Clear obviously was the winner for our particular challenge. And we brought them in, and then we went into a pilot phase. So in that situation, we want to test it out and make sure that it's going to appropriately resolve and solve our challenge. And in this case, it was a fantastic example of that success. And the good news with WaterStart is that what we're really trying to do as well is we're trying not to reinvent the wheel with every new utility that comes on with a particular challenge. If we have the ability to test and pilot this technology, and it's successful in our water utility, we share those results with others. And that information sharing really helps to accelerate the adoption of these innovative solutions. And in this case, that's exactly what happened with Clear. SNWA adopted Clear. We went and put a solution in place. And many of the other portfolio companies or utilities within WaterStart adopted Clear as well as a result of our successful pilot. So it's really a great pathway. It improves efficiency, solves real world challenges, and has been super beneficial to Southern Nevada Water Authority.
Yeah, Dave, I really like that the approach with WaterStart is starting with a challenge or a problem to then find the solution. Because I think a lot of times we see in the utility industry pitches that are made from innovators or technology companies that have a solution, but maybe that organization or utility doesn't really have that problem that needs to be addressed by that solution. And so it's kind of a backwards way of doing it. So I think WaterStart really is doing it the right way, starting with the problem and then going out and finding the solution. And then those pilot tests, I got to imagine that those are not only helpful for the water agencies, but also for the companies that are developing those innovations or those tools or those solutions. And certainly trial and error, we can all imagine as something is coming to market or is being developed, you've got trial and error that you do in order to try and improve that performance or improve that technology. But I have to know, have there ever been any companies or technologies that have come through WaterStart where our response was, hey, it's a nice idea, but it's really not performing as advertised. It's just not working to solve that solution. Have you ever encountered any of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So at WaterStart, what we try to do with the process on the front end is to vet those companies to make sure that we have as high a percentage of success as possible. But we do find some that, whether it be looking at the way that they represent themselves or that, mathematical equations show out, it didn't really meet the need or the problem that we were attempting to solve. Now, in some cases, our experts can work with the experts that are in the innovation company itself and find solutions. Maybe it's not, maybe it's set up in I'll call it a more laboratory environment or more of a test bed environment. But when you put it in the real world application, there are some nuances or some things that can be modified. And we've had that experience. We've actually taken some of our initial products that we worked with through WaterStart, partnered with the innovator, and came up with innovative solutions that we actually have installed in the field today. So that does happen. There are also times when it just simply doesn't work and it's just not going to be a fit. And what WaterStart tries to do is to make sure that we give meaningful feedback to those innovators and also help to provide that information to other utilities so that they understand what the challenges are. Because just because it didn't work in our specific application doesn't mean it won't work in another utility. And we try and give the innovators in this space, who, by the way, have fantastic ideas and products, every opportunity to be successful. So I think that the partnership is really good, both for the innovation community and also for the utilities themselves.
So Dave, besides Clear, can you give us just a couple of other examples of other technologies the Water Authority has tested and implemented? What type of innovations are we talking about?
So one of our major focuses is with respect to the reduction of leaks in our system. We operate a system that has over 6,500 miles of pipeline. And what we're constantly trying to do is to reduce that leakage. We have one of the lowest leakage rates in actually in the world. We try to strive to improve that every day. And so a company out of the UK called Syrinex, we partnered with Syrinex to install some transient monitoring technology in our system. And what that does is that helps us to know if we have any significant increases in pressure that could be causing our pipelines to fail more rapidly than we might expect. We also have partnered with innovation called Red-Eye. And Red-Eye allows us to be able to look at all of the drawings that we have as an organization in real time. So our technicians can actually take an iPad out into the field and they can look at the drawing real time, make modifications, make suggestions, put it through an approval process so that every time our technicians and our engineers are looking at a drawing, it is absolutely the single source of truth and absolutely updated. So that's another technology that we went through the WaterStart process from a problem statement all the way to an implemented solution. There are many others as well, but those are a couple of really good examples of how the WaterStart process works and how we've been able to successfully adopt innovation into the actual operation.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate you sharing some of those technologies that have come here to Southern Nevada as a result of the partnership with WaterStart. I mean, aside from what you mentioned, there have been treatment technologies, leak detection, real-time water quality monitoring, those engineering solutions that you talked about. Sometimes the public just doesn't realize everything that it takes in order to not only deliver water reliably, but to do it efficiently as well. And the commitment that we have here at the Southern Nevada Water Authority to make that happen is second to none. Dave Johnson, thank you so much for joining us here on the Water Smarts podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, Crystal, another good conversation. Kind of challenging when we have two Daves on one episode. But look, the work that is taking place with WaterStart and bringing new technologies, not just to Southern Nevada and not just to the Water Authority, but really bringing new technologies to the water industry as a whole, that really can't be understated and really demonstrates the leadership that our organization has within the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before on this podcast about how forward-thinking and progressive the Water Authority is when it comes to technologies. And I think our partnership with WaterStart is a great example of that. You know, as Dave Johnson mentioned, not everything works, but we vet it, we check it out, and then we work with that vendor or, new innovator and give them the feedback because maybe it doesn't work for us, like Dave said, and it might help somebody else, or maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, that innovator can come back to us and say, we've gone back into the drawing board, we've made some changes, and now we think this will work for you. So lots of great ways to use technology in the water industry.
Yeah, and think about the investment being made in those technologies by the water industry. And having that information on the front end, that pilot testing, those results of whether or not that particular technology performed as advertised, I mean, that is invaluable. And when you look at the CLEAR system and what CLEAR does in helping to manage all of the permitting and regulatory compliance and environmental compliance, the public doesn't really understand everything that gets involved in having to meet all of those regulations. But the fact is, you drop one of those balls, and that has the potential to impact your ability to meet the water needs of the community and provide that reliable water service. So leveraging that technology to make sure that we can continue to meet this community's water needs is absolutely invaluable. And that wraps us up today here for the Water Smarts podcast. We hope you subscribe and listen next time. And if you have any questions, send them our way. You can find us via email at watersmarts@snwa.com. That's watersmarts@snwa.com. We'll get back to you with an answer, and we might even have your question on the air. Thanks for listening, and we hope you join us here next time on Water Smarts.